We're doing some great things, and things are changing up in the Go for CEO world. The book's almost out. We're refining some things, but most importantly for the Go for CEO community is that we bring on really cool guests, really the CEOs, the founders, the entrepreneurs, the intrapreneurs inside communities that you may not know, right? You may not realize that they're running multi-million dollar businesses, and from startup to seasoned to really professionals to about to exit, these are the types of professionals I'm bringing you because they have the Go for CEO mindset. So the guest I have on today, you're going to learn a lot because it's all about mentality, about the mindset, and about driving it where you want to go. So from an executive coach to a managing partner with Heritage Professional Associates, Chris Mazzarella. How are you?
Hey, I'm doing great. Yeah, it's great to be here with you.
Awesome, brother. Awesome. So, hey, look, like we start with every one of our videos is really telling the ideation, right? Because I feel like the community loves to understand, all right, well, yeah, who's Chris? Where did he come from? What's going on? And what was the idea behind Heritage Professional Associates and how did you become a part of it and as a managing partner? So, take it away.
Well, I mean, my origin story is really I'm first generation in this country on my mom's side. So I didn't grow up with this advantage of having parents who went to college, who were able to show me exactly how to, build anything, essentially from a business standpoint. My dad was pretty entrepreneur, but he didn't really engage very much on the academic side. So he did a lot of self-taught kind of work, but I saw him take a lot of risks growing up, from real estate, and then he bought a car dealership, and then he went on to do some independent stuff with his talent, which was voice. He was a broadcaster, so he did a lot of work with that. But really, I grew up just kind of having to figure it out on my own. Getting my academic degrees certainly helped me get in a position where I could, generate a little bit of income so that I can then use that income to do some more things in life outside of my profession. So that got to the point where when I finished my doctoral degree in clinical psychology, I realized that, man, there's a lot that I'm doing in my profession, in my field, but I felt like I was a little behind my peers in terms of being able to get, established in life. So I just basically had a baby, didn't know exactly how I was going to build a life for my family with the income that I had, which was not very much at that time. And so I did this crazy thing in that I invested in real estate in 2007. And as you probably know, that didn't work out too well for many of us. And I had gotten involved in a lot of things that I shouldn't have in terms of leveraging from one property to another to another. So I lost my shirt. I was pretty vulnerable. And I thought that, man, I really messed up my family. This is not something that I ever envisioned would ever happen to me. That got me to a point of desperation, where I went to the partners of the firm that I was working with, Heritage Professional Associates, and I said, hey, I need to make some more income. I'm going to either again do something here and maybe get paid more here. I'm going to go start my own practice. And they basically at that point said, well, we would like to invite you to be a partner with Heritage. And so at that point, I didn't know what that meant. I didn't know what the responsibilities would be. I didn't know what that would mean financially. And I explored that possibility for about 6 months. There's a little bit of a dating period, understanding the business. I started to sit in on the partners meetings until I got to the point where I'm like, I think this is going to work. And financially, I think I can make this work. And so it was my last big risk. And I told my wife, look, I know I messed things up with this real estate endeavor, and I'm going to make this my last big risk, and I think this is going to work. And it worked out eventually, but the first 6 months we were in the red as a practice, and I thought to myself, what have I got myself into? Not only am I overextended in terms of my investment financially into the partnership, but now I'm actually having to pay out from my own receivables, my own income, to be able to afford, to just keep things solvent. So that was a pretty stressful first 6 months as a partner, but things certainly looked up after that.
It's interesting. You tell this story, right, of finding a way that education was the platform for you to get to an income that you felt like, hey, compared to mom and dad and some things you learned from them, you wanted to almost like stabilize some things, right? because you saw your dad go through the entrepreneurial journey, which, the Go for CEO community, we all know, right? There's ups and downs, but then you find yourself in an up and down scenario, which is almost ironic, right? Where you build a family, you get into real estate, you had a, 9 to 5 per se job, but you took some risks too, which is, still in your genes, in that entrepreneurial spirit. And then in low, you find a way and you're resourceful to be able to, talk to the partners and say, hey, what can we do here? So a really interesting story, excuse me. And, I think a lot of people can learn from that, because in that time of darkness, I think all of us feel like, oh, this is it. I totally messed up. And in reality, I think we both have ring lights in front of us. If you could just see a little bit of that light, Go for CO community, you could see how Chris got himself out, saw a speck of light, a speck of opportunity, and then worked his butt off for the next 6 months to a year. And I know about your practice personally, and some of the success you've had. So tell us a little bit about, even in that 6 months, because I love to feel a little bit of that pain with our community. What were you learning? Obviously you were an employee, you became, the partnership mentality. What were some areas of the business that you started to say, oh, wow, okay, I didn't know that, I was just meeting with someone to do some therapy and help them. I didn't know that this back end business was doing XYZ. What are some things that you picked up?
Yeah, I mean, I was so naive. When I think back, I mean, when you're an employee and you're a rank and file anything, in my case, I was just one of the psychologists on staff. You just think that, maybe the partners meet every couple weeks. They talk about some, things that are relevant to the practice and business, and that's all it takes. And the fact of the matter was, I was shocked that they met every single week and they met for hours every week. I'm thinking, what are they talking about? You know, until I sat in on those meetings and I'm like, oh, this is what they're talking about. What they're talking about is a myriad of operational kinds of issues, employee, relation issues, retention, contracts that, you have, you're trying to maintain. There's so many things that go into running a business like this. And so I was just like overwhelmed with how much risk there actually was with being responsible for running the practice. So my mentality had to shift to I've got to take care of my employees. I got to make sure that they're getting what they need. I got to make sure that their experience at Heritage, the culture of the place is supporting their best work. I got to make sure that we retain them, that they're not going to be enticed by another offer somewhere else. We've got to always look at, the market changes, what's going to be happening with reimbursement rates. In our industry, we are at the mercy of the insurance companies. If they decided, hey, look, we're slashing reimbursement by 15%, that's a huge, significant chunk out of our profit margin. And then can we sustain the practice? And then, of course, the question then becomes, if we can't sustain the practice, we got to let people go. We let people go. There are people who are trying to support their families who are no longer able to support their families very easily. So there's a lot of responsibility that I realized pretty early in the process. And for us, this was back in the day where we built our practice as a business model to be multidisciplinary. So, like, what does that mean? It means that we were being given a higher reimbursement rate by Blue Cross Blue Shield to provide many different specialties within the same practice. So we had psychiatry, we had psychologists, we had social workers, marriage and family therapists, we had all these folks. So we were built to get the higher reimbursement rate. Well, this was at the time early on where they basically said, we're not doing that anymore. We're cutting your reimbursement rate by 15%.
Mm.
So that's why we were in the red early on. And that decision came right when I became a partner. So whatever profit margin I thought I was going to be able to receive, whatever trajectory the business was on, was significantly changed within a very, very short period of time. So it caused us to be in a little bit of a tailspin as to how are we going to make up for that? How are we going to stay a vibrant, high quality practice? Are we going to have to cut corners in any particular area or let people go? And that's when we had to be really creative as a partnership. Some people have said the only ship that doesn't sail is a partnership because there's infighting, different opinions, different brains are wired differently, and then there's a lot of, kind of, I don't know, jockeying for position in terms of power. Our partnership at that time was extremely close and creative to come up with some solutions that allowed us to stay vibrant and continue on a trajectory of growth over time. And that's what's cool about the partnership of people that trust each other, are committed to, common values, and really have a vision to serve people well.
The imagine the I guess the image that came to mind is a basketball team. There's five of you guys, right, and gals, assuming on the leadership team, and yeah, you can all of a sudden feel either the rats just fly away, right, and don't come together, or you can unify like a good basketball team, and you each have a position, you each kind of molded into that opportunity. So what were parts of that journey in that same, 6 months? So you find out 15% gets cut, right? In a business, as you said, it's very crucial. I'm a commercial banker by trade, and whenever you see that, we get worried, right? As a bank, like, are they going to pay us back? Are they going to be able to sustain and profit margins? So when you looked at, I guess, and you were kind of in training, but still a part of everything, as far as a partnership, what were some areas, if you could recall, that you looked at the balance sheet or that you looked at some liabilities that you said, okay, hey, did you cut the staff a little bit and increase your workload as partners so that there was, not a spread between the company and the therapist? Or what were some strategies that you did take?
Yeah, so some people initially started threatening to leave, like, "Hey, this is not going to work," and they like look for what they thought were greener pastures for themselves. And some of them went off on their own individually and started their own practice or whatnot. Interestingly enough, some of those folks were very unhappy going off on their own. They missed the camaraderie of what we had, and so that was kind of reassuring that we had set up a culture, of providing a professional home for people. So and then so we had some attrition, some people that were leaving, but not too many. And really, what we decided to do is to double down, and a lot of us started creating just more partnerships with organizations in the community,
Mhm.
continuing to develop relationships. One of the things that Heritage does very well is, we really partner with other institutions that are also committed to excellence and committed to service. And what we found is that we just continued to get more referrals. So we decided to it's grow or die. Okay, so we started to add on new therapists and started to attract new people and restructure a bit of what we have to provide. And so what we've decided over the course of the better part of multiple years now is we're like, well, we may not be able to provide the kind of income that some people would expect to have in this field um, when they came into the field. Some people think they're going to get rich, being a doctor in psychology, and that's just not the case at all. So we have to right size their expectations as far as income, but then let them know. But we're going to give you an experience, a professional home that is absolutely stimulating. You're going to feel supported. You're going to have a trajectory of growth for yourself to climb the ladder of leadership. We're going to be here to encourage, support, give you everything that you need. So essentially, we keep serving our employees in such a way where they don't want to leave. They don't want to leave because they have camaraderie, because they have a solid infrastructure to deliver their services. They just basically just need to be a part of us, and then they can just do their work. A lot of psychologists and therapists, they didn't come into this profession to try to be business people. They didn't want to market themselves. They don't want to do administrative work and deal with insurance companies. So we're kind of a place where we do all of those things for you and provide a place where you just unleash your talent. Everybody brings their gifts. And so we just want to unleash their gifts to the community. And so that's been our focus, is serving our clinicians, our employees, making sure this is a wonderful place to work and be able to support them to fulfill the calling on their lives.
I really like that. I think that culture in a business, small or big, is very important, right? I think a lot of people miss that, when you do look outwardly, there could be attractive things. Unfortunately, in most businesses, you do sometimes, especially in corporate America, you feel like you have to leave to get that 15, 30% bump, right? But then you forget that that 15, 30% bump could be to the detriment of your happiness, right? And to the ability that maybe you had more flexibility because you had tenure at this other company and things like that. So it's an interesting dynamic, and as a partner, you feel that you bring people together so that you can have peace of mind as well, right? As partners, you don't really want that, this guy left or that person left, and then you have to replace them and all that stuff, and that rigmarole can be exhausting as well. So neat. Well, one of the things that obviously after that 6 month period and kind of birth by fire, and seeing things from the inside, how is the dynamic of work? Meaning, if I recall, you still had a small child. You had some personal things with your real estate investments. Your wife and you made an agreement, but then you had to go produce. From a Go for CO mindset, one of the book I'm developing talks about assessing, right? So, how did you assess what type of work hours you're going to put in and the commitment that you were going to need to make to heritage, and also balance obviously the ability to work with your wife and have that commitment for each other?
That's a great question. I've never been afraid to work hard, and I think that was instilled upon me like pretty early in life. My mom's parents came from Germany and Poland, and they came to this country with nothing, and they worked their butts off, and they just worked hard. And so work ethic was something that was always instilled. So I wasn't afraid to work hard when basically I lost everything, and that's pretty much what took place with the great financial crisis of 2008. I decided I was going to buckle down and I was going to work hard, and I did that for probably a solid 4 years, where I just took all of the energy that I had, and I saw a lot of clients to the point where my wife and I looked at each other and said, "We're going to climb out of this hole. You're going to work hard. You're going to be still obviously available to help with the kids because at this point I think we had 3 kids,
Mm,
um, and my wife works full time, and so we're just going to like this is just I'm going to work evenings. I'm going to work as much as I can on the weekends." So I took on a lot more burden in terms of seeing clients, which was wonderful financially and certainly did help out tremendously. But I went to the extreme. I took the Financial Peace University course, Dave Ramsey kind of an approach to debt reduction. And I got
mm,
to the point where we were so gazelle intense about this that I shaved my head to save money on haircuts. I drove a 15-year-old car with a dent in it and not even a CD player in this thing. It was a Geo Prism, not a sexy vehicle by any imagination. And I took all kinds of sacrifices to get to the goal of being debt free. And so
mm,
that's what was my first goal was to be debt free. And so I spent several years doing that, and I did that, paid off all my student loans. So those who are getting, loan forgiveness, I can't help but wonder what that would have felt like to have loan forgiveness when I was sacrificing time with my wife, time with my kids, trying to pay off my student loans. Same thing with just trying to just to get out of all the debt. I had about $500,000 of debt, I think, at that point in terms of real estate debt and other student loan debt. So
mm,
got to the point where I actually got to be debt free, except for my house.
mm,
So that was wonderful, and it allowed me to truly get above water and build wealth from that point forward the right way. So not leveraging, not get rich quick schemes, not fly by night opportunities that are being advertised online. And so I just worked really, really hard, but it did come at the expense of my marriage. I think my wife and I at that time, we were partners, but we didn't have quality time together the way that you would think. We didn't have any family in the area to help us out with our kids. So we didn't really even have many babysitters. We just were, taking turns going to work. She'd go to work, I'd watch the kids, and then, vice versa. And I didn't see her in the evenings because that's when the kids would sleep and I'd go to work. So we didn't spend much time together during those years, and sadly, I regret that. I think that that was a mistake
mm,
as I look back. So I don't care whatever level of financial independence that we can achieve. And again, I feel like I achieved a great deal during that time financially. I was able to get enough down payment to buy another house, and it was in a really nice neighborhood, and all the things that my wife and I had dreamed of getting, and it came at too big of a cost. So if I were to do it over again, I might just say, you know what? I can build this slower, have a more high quality connection with my wife, and just embrace the years that my kids are young because you can't get those back. And
Mm.
now when I have a 19-year-old, a 17-year-old, and a 14-year-old, man, those years were golden years that I didn't quite lean in to being the dad that I wanted to be. Even though I was still pretty present emotionally, I was pretty worn down. You know, when you work that much, you do get worn down and you're not as attentive as you could be. So yes, did that help financially, but not relationally. So there's has to be a lot of rebuilding, you know, that takes place after a period of time of going after chasing after the financial goals.
And we appreciate that, Doc. It's something humbling, right, to share. I think the entrepreneurial journey can sometimes be glorified online, especially nowadays, and how easy it is, and how simple it is, and just become a millionaire, and do this, do that. But the true fact that you just shared is pretty intense, right? And you're going to have to make some sacrifices. But you just said legitimately too that with your knowledge now, if you could go back, you'd rework some things, right? So,
Yeah,
um,
we go through, you know, our journeys in life not having done it before. So it's like I was thinking that my marriage would be fine. I was thinking that things would work out okay. And what I realize is, and this is just true, is that whatever you go after, and I'm ambitious and I love to achieve things, but it always comes at a cost. And so we always have to count our cost. I think it's wonderful to chase after a goal, but also realize what you're starving in your life. You're feeding some area of your life and you're starving another area. And is it something that could be, you know, restored is the big question. How many, you know, men and women do you know that have pursued their goals in the workplace, killing it in business or whatnot, and they have ended up getting a divorce or two or three. So I was looking for people who are successful outwardly in their business ventures and saying, what's the quality of their relationships? You know, what's the quality of relationship with their wife? Are they married to their first wife? You know, do their kids admire them? Do their kids look up to them? Do their kids want to tell them good news when they have it? So if the guy that's driving the Beamer and you know is enjoying his yacht and all these things, yet his kids can't stand him, that's a problem. That's a problem. So a lot of what I do in my coaching work is I take those guys that are killing it in the workplace. They're respected, admired, they're esteemed, they're publishing articles, writing books, podcasts, but they're divorced or their kids don't quite, you know, feel close to them at all. I like to work with those guys and help them kill it at home as well as in the workplace. And that sustains a life well lived. If someone can maintain lifelong relationships, especially the people that are the closest to them, those are the people that are going to be very content and satisfied in their 50s, 60s, and 70s.
You bring up something, and I hope you caught this, Gopher CEO community, because things are caught, not taught. That to learn from a guy like Chris and to become a client of Chris is actually a pretty unique thing because he went through the fire and he went through the things. So just a quick plug for you, Chris, because I think that's if people caught that right now, that's one of the things that I always see. A lot of people don't have mentors, and they don't like to be a mentee, or they haven't learned really how to become a mentee. And thankfully, at certain points in my life, I've had some great mentors, and to have someone like you that went through that type of fire, has come on the other side, and has now the ability to share, hey, look out for this, look out for that, is a big deal. So one thing I want to ask is, as you're going through this fire, right? Obviously, you were in also heavy recruitment. You felt like, hey, we're not going to die here. We're going to grow from the business perspective. What were some of the ways that were a part of that recruiting? I think recently you shared with me that you handle a lot of the interview process. So, what are some things that you look for, especially in your industry, that are kind of qualifiers, high key value points that you kind of identify that has become a really great asset because your organization is pretty big. So, what are some things that you look for?
Yeah, we're looking for people to come onto our team that are high character people. That is really an essential part of who we are. Someone could be extremely impressive on paper. They can have an amazing, CV in terms of doing a bunch of research, teaching at different institutions, and we're looking at the person because, I mean, truly, you know, what we know in this profession is transformation happens in the relationship. that, the therapist has with the client. And
Mhm.
so if we have people who have high character, people who have self-awareness, people who have depth, people who have the capacity for compassion and empathy, and truly view their work as a calling rather than just a job. That's what we're looking for. So, I mean, I screen, all of our applicants myself. I'm the first point of contact. And so I put them through some basic questions. What brought you into this field? What's your mission? What's your why? Give me the reason why you're doing this, because that means if you give me a good, clear, well thought out reason for why you're doing what you're doing, it means you're going to be resilient. You're going to persevere through adversity. And I'm also looking for people who are not entitled. What can you do for me? We want people who have this sense of generativity and purpose. And then certainly we want to pay those people, pay them well, and make sure that they stay with us. But yeah, for me and for us, we form a lot of relationships with people in the community because I do life in my community. My kids are very involved in a lot of different things. I meet people all the time. So I'm networking every single day. Every point of contact. I don't care if my kids' teachers, if I'm, talking to their baseball coaches, football coaches, their theater, leadership. I'm always marketing, basically. I view marketing as just sharing about me, what I do, where I work, and then let people in on the vision of who we are and what we do. And then people are attracted to that. People are attracted to optimism. People are attracted to hope. People are attracted to, love, if they feel loved by you. So I just kind of do life, talk to people, let them in on who I am and who my organization is. And then they find us. So very few times do we actually hire people where they apply to us. Usually it's word of mouth, it's networking. It's, hey, my sister-in-law just graduated with her degree from X institution. Is it okay that, you have a conversation with her about the opportunities out there? And I'm like, sure. So I have the opportunity to mentor a lot of young clinicians and help them. I don't, whether they come to Heritage or not, I just want to help them, empower them, give them an understanding of their trajectory in the profession, let them in on my vision for where the profession is going, whether they're attracted to Heritage or not. My goal is that they land where they should land. I don't do a hard sell. I'm like, look, I want what's best for you. If you are going to be happy working in a hospital, great. If you're going to be happy, being in private practice, that's great. So I try to serve people first. And then if it's a good fit to Heritage, they usually they're more pursuing us than we're pursuing them.
Neat, neat. It's interesting. I caught some of the things that you said where you're kind of looking for that value that they would bring into the organization, not so much the accolades that they've had before, through a true conversation, right? And a lot of people um, can sometimes fake their way into it, right? Can showcase themselves. So, what are some things that maybe once they're in, let's just say you've made a mistake in hiring, that you do or the organization does to kind of weed those people out, or how do you identify that quickly?
Yeah. So this was interesting. We're five psychologists, okay, that own this practice. Uh, we have all kinds of ways of assessing someone's personality, whether they're going to get along well with others, blah blah blah. And so it's interesting to have these conversations and to go through our process. But ultimately, I think earlier on, I've been with Heritage now 18 years. I think earlier on in my tenures in leadership role here, we would go on just word of mouth and character references mostly. And then most recently, I think our hiring practices were a little bit more aggressive during, I guess, during COVID and post-COVID, because there was such a huge demand for mental health services. We couldn't, hire, enough therapists. So we did get a little bit hasty, I think, in making some decisions during that time because we were all kind of in a tailspin, right? And like we were all trying to figure it out.
Mhm.
Uh, Moving to telehealth and what does that mean and how do you do that well? So I think we have most recently, I'd say within the last 3 years or 4 years, there's been one or two where it just was not a good fit. It was not a good fit for a number of reasons. One of those issues that came up was there's someone that was unaware about their background in terms of their program and whether that would make them eligible to be licensed. And so we kind of went on faith and trust that that was gonna work out okay, and it ultimately didn't, sadly, and we had to part ways. And it is one of those things where we probably should do our due diligence to make sure that everybody is license eligible and everything could fall into place. That's something that we just have to be very zeroed in on and being more careful. But again, that is a very rare thing to ever happen in terms of hiring. So even when someone their character in terms of their clinical experience and background looks like it looks good and looks solid, there could be some technicalities that can get in the way of them, being able to work for us. And so that's one example. And then we've had people who've completely changed their heart from wanting to be in this profession to just wanting to do something completely different. So that's happened too. They came on thinking that they wanted to be, let's, for example, we had someone that graduated from a marriage and family therapy program. They decided, hey, I really feel called to something else. I don't think I'm going to do this, full time. And we had people that left here because they were taking care of family members who are sick. So these kinds of things happen. Some people get married and they move out of the state. So it's like, younger clinicians, they don't have as many roots here sometimes, and they could find themselves going elsewhere for education purposes with their spouses or job opportunities. But all those things are out of our control for the most part. All we can do is try to hire the best people that we can, character wise. Um, Life circumstances probably are the number one reason that people leave.
Mm, mm, interesting. We've spent a good amount of time on this interview, really kind of dissecting some of the ways that you think, and then be able to bring in the type of quality around you, right? From the five partners to the extended business group that you have. Let's talk a little bit about, how you're marketing each person individually, or is it the practice? Like what strategy do you guys take? I know that you said the partnerships with some of the great institutions around the community has been a focal point. What does that actually really look like? And how do you partner with them? Is it programs that you implement into somewhere and then you have some sort of pay grade that they have to pay you for that, or is it a shared revenue type program? That's really interesting to me.
So it's interesting. So Heritage was established in 1990.
Mm,
So we've been around for a long time. We our first office was in Hinsdale, Illinois, and it was again a practice that grew over time. Grew slowly and gradually, and we became more well known within the surrounding Hinsdale community for a number of years to where we never had to advertise.
mm,
Uh, Not at all. It was all word of mouth. And that continued actually until relatively recently. When we branched out and we established our Wheaton office, again, it was more word of mouth, but we weren't in the Wheaton area nearly as long as Hinsdale. And so we, again, gradually had to build our presence and our reputation. I think where we are today is we are building programs that are well respected, and then people refer because of the quality of the program. So, for example, psychological assessment, neuropsychological evaluations, these things are specialty services. Very, very few clinics offer those. So we built out our diagnostic and assessment center with my colleague at the helm, Dr. Sandy Cruz, and she's built an amazing program to the point where we did 820 psychological evaluations last year.
oh, wow.
Again, in high quality evaluations. These aren't, very short, brief evaluations. Some of these are neuropsychological evaluations, which I characterize them as the Cadillac of evaluations. But when you're known in the community as providing high quality with quick turnaround, very little wait time, people are attracted to that. So we get a lot of referrals for our diagnostic and assessment. And then once we obviously bring in people, through the door for that assessment, then we make referrals for therapy, referrals for specialty services. And within Heritage, we're kind of like a one-stop shop. So what's great is then we can funnel some of those folks from testing to, for example, our executive functioning coaching program. So
Mm,
EF, executive functioning across the lifespan is now a new program that we're launching. Again, we're going to get a lot of attention because there are a lot of young people who have ADHD or they just never really learned how to organize themselves well, and they don't do well with time management and these things that upend them academically. So now we have now a new programming around that particular need. And again, do we need to advertise that? Yes. So the way to advertise that, I mean, I speak in the public quite a bit. I speak at schools. I speak at churches, faith communities. I do a lot of networking events. And so I share with them what we're doing. This is what we're doing. This is what we're offering. If you're interested, I make relationships with social workers in local schools, especially because they are on the front lines of seeing which students are struggling. So that's another great relationship. But a lot of our marketing that we do at Heritage, I was trained a while ago. If you market to everybody, you market to nobody.
Hmm.
So nobody wants a general, description of your practice and hey, come to Heritage because of X, Y, and Z. People will like get referred to Heritage usually because they're referred to an individual. Hey, I heard Dr. Mazzarella does a really good job in this area. Hey, I heard here Dr. Lodewijk is really special, specializes in trauma. So it's more of a person that they're referred to. And so I think marketing is developing relationships. Each individual, each clinician identifying their referral community that they are going to want to hopefully have a lifelong relationship with. So I tell my clinicians, okay, identify your ideal client. Who are you uniquely qualified to serve and serve well? Who do you have a passion to help? And then I have them describe who that person is. I'm like, okay, so who has contact with that person? And so then you identify those institutions, agencies, clinics, healthcare organizations, whatever. And then I'm like, okay, develop relationships with the people who basically are in direct contact with your ideal client. So in that way, you develop these relationships, which is trust. It's familiarity and trust. And then you'll get referrals, and the referrals will be the right referrals. It'll be the referrals of your ideal client that you want to fill your caseload with, hopefully, the clients that you can serve the best. And so I'm big on let's cultivate the marketing strategy where you're able to identify your specific client or a few clients that you can help really, really well and then make that your passion to develop relationships with those people who are around those ideal clients. So it's more of a relational marketing approach as opposed to a digital campaign. Although we do have a digital campaign, but we're still pretty much at a nascent stage with that. We don't invest a whole lot of financial resources towards our digital marketing, but that is the way to leverage the message is through digital marketing, no question about it. I mean, handing out flyers or putting up a billboard is not going to be nearly as effective as how many people you can reach through digital marketing, social media, that sort of thing.
You gave probably about, I was counting in my head, ding, ding, nuggets, right? Nuggets of what you just said. And if you're in this industry and you're watching this video, that last minute or two of Chris sharing that is phenomenal. If I was looking at this business and how to create my own agency and therapy practice to be able to really do some significant things because in the commercial banking world, that's kind of what's happened over the last few years is I've been able to kind of make inroads. And you shared about having a specificity. I'm a big merger and acquisition finance guy, and then equipment and some other things that come ancillary to that. But it's interesting now. It's like every week, boom, 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 referrals come in, and it's been very, very consistent. So what a cool way to look at your business. Now, I did catch that basically there isn't necessarily a revenue share that you've created with these partnerships. It's more of a true value add for them to refer those people, and then that revenue stays in-house. Is that correct?
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of benefits in sharing revenue and you kind of share in each other's networks and whatnot and
Mhm.
kind of help each other. In our industry, there's a lot of altruism, and what you don't want to do is you don't want to incentivize people to refer to you and pay them for those referrals because it's not in the client's best interest necessarily to do that if you're getting compensated for referrals. So in this industry, it's about choosing the best people to provide the best services, regardless of financial incentive. And so we definitely do not share in any of those. We don't invest in that in terms of paying people to refer people to us or sharing their networks. So a lot of it is just we have relationships with other clinics, for example, and we may offer something together, for example, like a continuing education
Mhm.
seminar, and we do it together. And then, we may share in the profits of that, but that's more of an offering in terms of continuing education. It's not necessarily a referral for individual therapy services or testing services. So in terms of education, yeah, we can share in some of the financial benefits of that. But yeah, in terms of referrals and whatnot, not so much.
Nice. Okay. Neat. Neat. I'd like to go into as we get winding down to the interview. Um, the five partners, right? As you said, what did you say about partnership again? It was
Yeah, the only ship that doesn't sail is the partnership.
partnership. Yeah, yeah. So, look, you've grown a great institution. They brought you in a time where not only did you have some personal things that you were going through, but then you found out very quickly that the institution was actually having some issues as well. And it sounds like a phenomenal story. And hopefully, Go for CEO community, you've heard a little bit of kind of what happened in that type of scenario so that you could learn from it and go out and do your own thing in different industries because I think it's very relatable. But five partners is five partners, right? It's five different types of chiefs of heads that are going through this process, right? So, what has been some of the ways that you guys complement each other and also still, grow, let's say, top line revenue and decide how that gets distributed between each other? If you can share some of that.
Yeah, so yeah, five of us, we're all very different people in terms of how we're wired, our personalities. And it's interesting, our oldest partner right now, he was a founding partner, Tom Skemper. So we have folks who are, Tom is, again, upper 60s, he's closer to 70 than 65. The oldest partner is 60. The next to oldest partner is 55. And then I'm 50. And then we have a younger partner who's in her, I think she's around 40, close to 40. So we actually span some decades, which is also interesting. So we're different in terms of how we're wired, and we're kind of different generationally too, which creates a strength in that we can learn from each other in terms of understanding what the needs are in the community and what the experiences of certain clinicians in our business as well. So um, but there's also some challenges. So some of us are extremely gifted with executive functions, for example, extremely efficient, very focused, very organized, very detail oriented. That is a huge strength, and you need that obviously in a business. And then you have some of us, like me, for example, and one of my, and Tom Scamper, who's one of the founding partners. We are very much more relational. We're very much big picture visionary. That's our strength. We call it each other. We're fuzzy buddies, fuzzy buddy. We're kind of very much on the relational warm side of things, and we love creating partnerships and friendships, and that's just how we're wired. And so collectively, I think that we sharpen each other. But are there frustrations and tensions because we're wired differently? Yes, of course. Are there assumptions that can be formed because you don't have regular communication and you're not exactly sure what the motivations are, for what your partner's doing? Yeah, absolutely, that happens. One of the cool things about our partnership is that we do meet in person to process what's going on under the surface. So that may
Mm,
not happen in a lot of boardrooms, talking about emotions, processing conflict, saying hard things to your partners, um, admitting, hey, this is where I'm dropping the ball. This is what's going on with me personally right now. Being able to process what's going on under the surface is really a strength that few teams can do. When you have five psychologists who trust each other, you're going to do that much, much better. And I think that's why we have such a strong partnership. That is a very, very important part of how we do what we do. We're not afraid to say hard things to each other. We do care for each other deeply, and we trust each other. And that is going to always be the thing that I ask, teams, is to say, do you have someone on your leadership team that is willing to deliver the hard
mm,
message? If you can't do that, if you can't do that within a leadership team, you have a major vulnerability, and that vulnerability will reveal itself in some sort of a liability of how much product that you can put out there, or retention of your team. If you ignore problems, they'll come back to bite you eventually, and then that is what you're teaching the people who are underneath you, that you can't say hard things, you can't say true things. And again, you're not going to be able to improve if you can't look at some of the hard realities. So yeah, I mean partnerships. Typically, there could be a lot of tension. We typically process that, work that out really well, and it's actually an enjoyable part of what we do.
Boy, what a bunch of golden nuggets you've given in this interview, and really appreciate it. I think very relatable in different industries. Obviously, yours specifically, and the way that you've grown over the last 16 years, very impressive. So awesome. Well, as we wrap up, I like to go through three different questions, which is CEO, part of the Go for CEO mindset and running a business, and C is for client experience, right? E is for engagement and O is for operational excellence. So we've kind of touched on every single one of those, but high level, value add. When you think about Heritage Professional Associates, you as one of the leaders of the five and the leadership team, what do you feel like is top of mind, right, when it comes to client experience?
Client experience really starts with how does the leadership treat each clinician, each employee.
Hmm.
Uh, if you treat your employees well, if you share with them uh, messages of "I believe in you," you are value added, I'm here to support you, I want you to grow, I want you to thrive. If you do that well, that'll trickle down. Okay. So then your office staff, your administrative staff is going to feel that sense of being cared for, being supported, being seen, all those things. And if your employees feel that from leadership, then they're going to provide that to the clients. So it's a trickle down effect, that the way that I see it. And so if you have a value like we do of hospitality, each person that comes into our waiting room and interacts with our office staff, if they don't feel valued, seen, if they don't feel heard, if there's some sort of a lack of understanding or something along those lines, then we need to address that. We need each client that enters into our space to feel welcomed, accepted, heard, that we're responsive with accurate information. And that starts really from the very first contact with our intake department. So each and every contact with a Heritage employee is one of they're going to experience hopefully a rush of love and care right from the very beginning. And if that doesn't happen, then that's an issue. But it comes from leadership. It's the culture that we set. It's the example that we set. It's how we love others. And so every encounter is important. Every vendor that comes through our door, making sure that they feel cared for, that they understand that we appreciate them. There are a lot of thank yous that are just going around to all of the people that work with us, help us. Everybody's of value, every single person. I don't care if you're taking out the trash, if you're helping us with our copier machine, if you're providing direct clinical services. Everybody is a part of what we do. We all need each other. So the culture of hospitality, of being valued, and being able to keep in mind what our mission is ultimately.
Sweet, right? You kind of molded the client experience and engagement because I felt a lot of engagement in that as well. Did you want to add anything about how you keep the leadership team engaged, how you keep the clinicians engaged, how you keep, your vendors and people that you do business with engaged?
A lot of it's like effective communication,
Hmm.
communicating what your focus is, what your the projects you're working on, and generating a sense of excitement around some of those projects and how they can be a part of it. And so if people feel like they're a valued member of a team, they feel that they know specifically what their role is, and there's accountability and there's progress. I think communication is really the key, and making sure that you're communicating accurately. You're not over promising and under delivering. There's a sense of what's in it for them, in terms of the amount of time and energy they're putting into something. So a lot of it for us, it's how do we communicate our mission well? How do we communicate where we're going? How can they be a part of that? How can we let them know that we're thinking about their needs and making sure that every step of the way that they're not wondering, I wonder how I fit into this.
Hmm.
Everybody should feel connected and a part, which is challenging when some people work remotely. I don't
Hmm.
see them in the office, right? That's been happening obviously in since COVID. How do we stay cohesive as a team? So that's a big part of what we're trying to do is having more in-person meetings, hybrid meetings, and opportunities for everybody to get the excitement that the partners have, the leadership has for each initiative that we're involved in.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, permeating that type of excitement throughout the organization and with the people that come in that feel that, even coming in, like you said, to do some copier machine work, you can feel the vibe when you walk into an office that really is humming the right way. So, operational excellence, it talks about really kind of some of the nuances, the things. I know that as a client, you get emails and you get responses and you get notifications about payments and all these types of things. So, what are some operational tools that you guys have either developed internally, maybe gone and gotten from vendors to maybe do some exclusive things for you guys, or are there other tools that you're out there using in the marketplace that people can learn from? So,
Heritage has also always had as a key value to be on the cutting edge of things. We want to be early adopters of things that really make a difference. One of those things that we did early on is we had an electronic health record system. We
mm,
did that before anybody else in the mental health space by far. And the first system that we used was, electronic health record was great. We got to do away with all of our paper. We got rid of all this square footage of storage of old files and things like that. Uh, so that was really great, but it was a clunky system. It was not a very good, slick system. It was not user friendly. So what we've done was we've continuously tried to identify what are the best, the easiest to use electronic health record system to be able to make sure that our clinicians are happy with the interface. And so that's been an investment we've made over the years. And the one that we're using right now, it's a program called uh, Jane, is particularly easy to use, and it's great. And it's an all-in-one system. So, you get appointment reminders, the user experience, both from the clinician and the client, is really, really good. There's a portal where you can it's like a dashboard. You can see what your balances look like, all kinds of ways to engage Heritage, signing up for e-newsletter and other things. So it's an all-in-one system, which is really, really slick and really, really great. Another thing that we've done most recently on the operations side, which has been really, really great, is we're incorporating uh, AI.
mm,
So we actually have the ability now to have AI kind of create our case notes for us, which is amazing when you think about, can you stay engaged with the client in the session and have it done in the background so that the clinician isn't at 10 o'clock at night in their pajamas doing the notes that they should have been doing throughout the day. They don't have to spend late night trying to basically recover those notes and be able to come up with all those notes before the end of the day. So that is a huge quality experience improvement as far as our clinicians to have that at our disposal. That's also cutting edge. I don't know of many mental health practices that are doing that either.
mm.
Of course, that's optional, so clinicians don't have to use it, but it's something operationally that's been really great. And then, using Google Suite, we have all kinds of, the Google business platform where everything that we have in order to share with our clinicians is within the Google environment. And so
Mm.
we use that really well in terms of internal communications and all the forms and documents and things that we do to share educational materials. We have a digital library of trainings, so our clinicians could be going on trainings for free whenever they want. Trainings on pretty much anything that they want to get trained in. That's really huge. And now we're building out basically CE offerings, being able to provide continuing education to other professionals in the community. And we're going to build out a library again of our CEs. And so that's also another great thing operationally where we could have so many people access that training as well as make that into hopefully a revenue, another way to generate some revenue to our practice. So yeah, infrastructure operations, huge. Dr. Kim Lodewijk, who's in charge of the operations at Heritage, she is phenomenal. She's extremely bright and organized and detail oriented, and she has great relationships with other large business owners in the community. And so we get basically the cutting edge information about how to run things well from a psychology practice standpoint.
You're making me think of a gentleman that I have a good friendship with, and he calls it the spider web effect. I know earlier in the interview we talked about some specialization that made you really good, and a lot of your partners and the people that are clinicians. But you also have put out there now the spider web, right? Like you've been able to catch a lot of things from the building of this business that now the CE thing and the other revenues. So a lot of to learn there, Go for SEO community. If I were you, I would replay this over and over and over. This was a golden nugget session, so I'm really proud and thankful for you to come on, Chris. Love to obviously have you share any way that somebody that's watching this video, that's seeing the shorts on YouTube or on LinkedIn, that they're going to be seeing. How can they get a hold of you? How can they get a hold of Heritage Professionals, and where should they go?
www.heritageprofessional.com would be our website. You can also email me directly, cmazzarella@heritageprofessional.com. Uh, there's all kinds of ways to engage the practice and engage me. You can email me through our website, so you don't have to remember how to spell my last name, which is not easy to spell. So that would be the best way to do it. We're also on social media, Instagram, and Facebook, and LinkedIn. So certainly you can engage us that way. But I am kind of like the heritage concierge. If you need to be connected to a certain resource within our practice, I would personally have a conversation with you, find
Mhm.
out what your needs are, and make sure you get to the right place, and make sure that we cut through all the red tape. We get you where you need to be quickly. And so I take a lot of pride in that, and I really want to make sure that if you need any kind of mental health services of any kind, I'm there to help you to get connected to those services.
Love it, love it. Well, hey, look, an engaged partner is a big deal, and you take a lot of ownership. As Jocko Willink says, is extreme ownership is a big deal. So awesome, brother. Well, thank you so much for coming out to the Go for CO channel. And by the way, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, subscribe to the channel. Come on, we're growing this community. We're coming out with a book shortly. We've been doing a lot of shorts. We're taking these interviews, cutting them up into 30, 60, 90 seconds, dropping them on LinkedIn, on X, on YouTube Shorts, and super grateful to have someone like Chris's expertise on, and what a great journey that he just shared today. So thank you so much, Chris, for coming on to the Go for CO channel.
Thanks, it's been a lot of fun.